these are the regulations that essentially forbid internet providers from slowing or stopping the speed at which stuff gets streamlined. Now, you have said, unlike your Democratic predecessor, this went too far, that this is handling or dealing with internet providers like they're big old utilities, and those days have come and gone. But I was surprised that some in the internet community, some of the big high-tech names that we mentioned that had that content, they kind of seem of a mixed mind on this. What did you make of that?
Well, I think what I make of it is that they are a fan of the free and open internet, as are we all. What they don't seem to be wedded to necessarily is these heavy-handed utility-style regulations that were drafted in the FDR era to regulate Ma Bell. And so going forward, what I said consistently is that I favor a free and open internet, but I also want to embrace that Clinton-era light-touch regulation that started in the 1990s to make sure that we continue to have the internet economy that is the envy of the world.
Do you ever worry that in advocating that position, though, Chairman, there's a possibility that these behemoths could take advantage of you? You're leaving it up to them to watch what they're doing, but a lot of them could just go ahead and do whatever the hell they want.
Well, some people want complete government micromanagement of the sector. Some people want it to be no regulation at all. I chart a middle course, which is light touch regulation. Let the marketplace evolve. If we see cases of anti-competitive conduct, let's take targeted action to address that conduct. But to preemptively regulate everybody based on rules that were inspired decades before the internet existed, I think is wielding the proverbial sledgehammer to tackle the flea.
All right, so when some of these guys get so big, like, you know, DirecTV and an AT&T, and then controlling a network, and then Comcast and controlling NBC, there is a distinct possibility they could favor their own programming and slow everyone else's down. You obviously have to watch for that, right?
Absolutely, and the consistent message I've given is that the antitrust and competition laws on one hand and consumer protection laws on the other stand precisely at that vanguard to make sure that we have a competitive marketplace that benefits consumers. I cut my teeth as an antitrust lawyer at the Justice Department, and one of the things we did in those days and continue to do now is to make sure that competition is the lodestone star, so to speak, for everything that we do.
You know, today, about another purview of yours, you have a busy agenda, which I can understand now you don't watch everything Colbert is saying, but Google is acknowledging a fast-spreading phishing attack that might have involved millions of its customers. This kind of thing, as you know, Chairman, keeps happening. And I'm wondering, is there a role for government to play in either policing this, stopping this, or the companies just have to take better safeguards, like Facebook is now trying to do by hiring 3,000 monitors to sort of police its content?
I think it's all of the above. I think government agencies that are empowered to handle this issue should do what they can. The FCC, for instance, consistently puts out consumer advisories to let people know about things like robocalling scams that might be out there. I think it's also important for industry to take the lead and make sure that they inform their customers about what some of these scams that they see going on. And consumers need to get the information they need in order to make informed choices and avoid some of these terrible scams that are out there as well.
Separately, we have a number of deals, mergers. They always seem to be happening, but the latest battle for Tribune that involves Sinclair and even my parent company working very closely with the Blackstone Group. Gone are the days, I guess, Chairman, that we had that 39% ceiling. You couldn't go beyond that, or station owner couldn't go beyond that penetration. Right. Is it safe to say, though, that it can't be 45%, that it can't be in all the major markets, that if there's overlap in big cities, important cities like New York and LA, for example, that you would try to slap down?
Well, going forward, we have a two-track approach. One is to make sure that we set rules of the road that reflect the marketplace of today, as opposed to the marketplace in 1975 or 1997. And secondly, if there is any transaction that's presented for our review, we want to apply carefully the public interest standard. We want to make sure that the consummation of that transaction would be good for consumers and good for competition. If it's not, then we have to take the appropriate action.
So when you see some of the controversy that surrounded this network and the crackdown on some abuses and abusers and personalities and our former chairman, does that enter into your equation when you look at deals, much as that is entering into the equation potentially when Fox Entertainment is looking to buy the rest of Sky in Europe?
Well, to me at least, transactions should always be evaluated by the cold, hard facts that are presented to us on paper. We want to make sure that we are taking into account all of the relevant facts, screen out some of the noise that sometimes attends these transactions, and really try to figure out, is this deal good for competition and good for consumers? And that is not the most exciting process, but it's critical, I think, for ensuring that the marketplace continues to be vibrant.
All right, so you do not share that European style of management on this type of issue, that the acquirer be a good steward, a good moral steward?
Well, we do have certain rules that require a person to have the character and fitness, so to speak, to hold a license from the FCC. But what we want to make sure is that we don't look at extraneous facts that aren't relevant to those core determinations of what's in the public interest.
What's the biggest change you've seen since taking over the FCC? Of course, now you and your predecessor obviously didn't always agree on how to go about running things, Tom Wheeler. And I'm just curious now, if it was a heavy touch of government under his stewardship, are you going to be Mr. Light Touch or no touch at all? How do you square it?
To me, at least, it involves modernizing our regulations to match the marketplace that we're in. In a lot of cases, what I found is that the FCC's rules have been on the books for decades without a considered reevaluation of, do these continue to be necessary in 2015 or 2016 or 2017? And so what we want to make sure is that our rules are consistent and comprehensive and modern, because otherwise we are standing in the way of investment and innovation in networks, and that's the last thing I think the regulator should want to do.
Finally, and I lied, I do have one more question. It concerns the live stream of the stuff that we see pop up on some of these sites, Facebook among them, where murders have been committed live stream. Do you think, as some have advocated, there should even be a delay on live stream material, much as there is sometimes when something controversial pops up on broadcast TV and even cable, that there is a delay to stop that from being seen to impressionable viewers?
You know, the FCC doesn't regulate in this area, so I'm hesitant to say what rules the FCC should apply, since I don't think we have the authority to do that. But it's certainly true that we see more and more cases of these live streams popping up around the world now. And so I think the companies have to take a look at what they think is the appropriate action. But there's no question that it's raised a lot of concern in some quarters.
All right. Ajit Pai, congratulations again, the chairman of the FCC. Very good seeing you.
Good to see you too, Neil.